Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Vikings Spin. I'm your host, Jason, and we are going to break down the Vikings-Packers post-game report here. The Vikings win against the Packers today to improve to 4-2 and to take possession of first place in the NFC North with a 23-10 victory over the Packers. This is a game that saw Aaron Rodgers knocked out of the game and possibly the rest of the season with a broken collarbone that he sustained in the first quarter. He was throwing a pass that went incomplete, and Anthony Barr was in pursuit and was hitting Rodgers just as he was releasing the ball, and Rodgers winded up landing on his right arm, elbow, and shoulder, and he indeed has a broken collarbone and is likely out for the remainder of the 2017 NFL season. The Packers also lost 3 offensive linemen in the game. Both starting tackles, David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga, were lost, as well as left guard Lane Taylor, cornerback Quentin Rollins. I think Pipkins and Kentrell Bryce also went out in their secondary. So the Packers were very banged up. They were kind of banged up coming into the game, but they left the game even more banged up. And for the Vikings, they had Anthony Barr left the game with a concussion. Other than that, the Vikings didn't sustain any more injuries, but hey, we all know what kind of injuries the Vikings had coming into this game. But we were still able to get it done. No Sam, no Dalvin, no Diggs, no problem. The Vikings are still able to get it done, and I believe that a lot of that has to do with the depth that's on this roster. I think Rick Spielman's done a great job of assembling that depth, and the coaching staff does a good job of getting the backups ready to play when they need to, because in this league, especially this season, there have been a ton of injuries, and the teams that are able to survive the injuries are the teams that are going to be left standing at the end of the year. And, luckily for the Vikings, we've only had one that's a season ender with Cook. It sounds like Sam Bradford and Stephon Diggs will come back. Some news on Sam Bradford. He's actually getting Regenix injections in his knee, so he could be back sooner than later. I was guessing after the bye, but it could be before the bye. Who knows? Maybe it's next week against the Ravens, or maybe the following week against the Browns in London. But I did check out this Regenix or Regenikine, injections, and the process involves extracting a small cup of blood from the patient, and then that blood is heated up into what's called a fever and spun into a centrifuge to separate the blood into its constituent parts. The yellowish serum in the middle contains agents that act to fight inflammation and proteins to block pain, and then that is injected back into the patient. So it's a basically like a sort of like a natural healing process using the body's own blood tissues, and this is a big thing in regenerative medicine. This is a lot of the Seattle Seahawks have used it. Kobe Bryant used it successfully. I heard Steve Smith Sr. Was talking about how he used it and it works. So it's good news for Sam Bradford. The Vikings are definitely a better offense when he's in the game. Although Case Keenum did have a solid day today, did throw his first interception of the year today, but also threw a touchdown pass. Was fairly efficient with the ball, moved when he had to, and got the job done. Jarek McKinnon had 99 yards from scrimmage, I think 69 rushing yards, and then another 30 through the air. 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown and 1 receiving touchdown today. Also had a fumble, but the fact that he was able to get the touchdowns and make up for that lost fumble was good. He's been running the ball really well. The Vikings offensive line, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that's definitely got to be the biggest difference this season and why the Vikings have been able to survive injuries to the skill players, is because the skill players that replace them, the backups, are getting really good looks from the offensive line, whether it's run blocking or in pass protection. Keenum was not sacked at all today. I mean, that's excellent. And the Vikings moved the ball on the ground when they wanted to, with relative ease. Both McKinnon and Murray were able to move the ball for the Vikings on the ground. And in Stephon Diggs' absence, Adam Thielen stepped it up, had 9 catches today. Laquan Treadwell probably had his best game as a pro, including a one-handed catch. He had several in the ball game. Michael Floyd blocked well, and I think he had a reception or 2 in a game. Kyle Rudolph was involved again, making some big plays. McKinnon was a big part of the passing game, as well as the running game. And, on special teams, Kai Forbath had a perfect day on field goals and extra points, including a 53-yard field goal. And Ryan Quigley had 3 of his 4 punts inside, I believe inside the 10-yard line, inside the 10 or inside the 20. But Green Bay had awful starting field position, and that allowed the Vikings defense, which played outstanding today, to generate a bunch of sacks, quarterback hits, turnovers. The Vikings had 3 interceptions of Packers backup quarterback Brett Huntley today. A fantastic job. Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, and Trey Waynes. Harrison Smith, in addition to the interception, also had 1.5 sacks in this game. So, I mean, he was just all over the field. The Vikings defense really played well. The Packers only had really points off of when the Vikings turned it over, and the defense was in a bad spot. But the Packers could not march the field against this defense at all today. 23 to 10 is the final score. Just an all-around good team win for the Vikings. And then, this puts the Vikings at 4-2 in the division. Now they are in first place because they've got the tiebreaker over Green Bay because they currently own the head-to-head over the Packers. So this moving forward is looking good. And, like I said, the Vikings injuries, they'll heal up, and they have the depth. Other than Dalvin Cook, who's out for the year, I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to really be out that much longer. Zendejo was out today. Barr was out with a concussion. Easton was out. But these are not season ending. Bradford's is not season ending, and now with news of that new treatment, it sounds like he'll be back sooner than later. And even Teddy Bridgewater is eligible to come off the PUP list next week if he gets cleared tomorrow by the doctors, and then the Vikings will have a 3-week window in which they can decide to activate him or not. But any way you go, the Vikings are going to be going into the second half of the season. They could have 3 healthy quarterbacks and that all can play and play well, whereas Green Bay has lost their starting quarterback, and they have Brent Hundley backing up, who has hardly any experience. And let's face it, I don't think that Brett Hundley is going to lead the Packers to the playoffs. So the Vikings are, they're going to be getting guys back healthy at the right time here. Great team win. Hats off to Mike Zimmer for getting these guys ready to play again and representing well, for the home crowd. So really excited about the win. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Viking Spin, and we'll have another podcast coming up, a preview podcast of the Vikings and Ravens game coming up next Sunday. And so I'll leave you guys with a little simple plan. And thanks for tuning in. So long.
With my best years behind me.